It is true that they are money-grabbing companies. I agree. But money-grabbing companies give you better games. And seeing as how here it's a bunch of microtransactions that you don't have to do, as well as DLC content that you don't have to buy, that's pretty damn fair.
Well, true underdog, I said I was going to do this, and now the time has come. But before I get into all that, allow me to introduce myself. My name is TheGreatExposer, and I am a hypocrite. Yes, you heard that right, and no, you aren't having auditory hallucinations. Why exactly am I a hypocrite? It's because despite everything I'm about to say in the rest of the video regarding the terrible business practices of WB Games and other companies, I am guilty of supporting part of it with my money. Yes, I bought the $30 combat pack for MKX. The moment I saw that not only would Jason Voorhees but also the Predator be in a Mortal Kombat game, my hype senses overloaded my brain and I just went into shut up and take my money mode, knowing full well that it probably still wasn't a good thing for me to do. So because I bought it, in reality does that give me the right to complain about it? Not really. But I will say that after the hype died down and I got to play these new characters, I started to have buyer's remorse, and I realized that those 4 characters were not worth the $30 I paid for them. So I am trying to pull my head out of my ass, not let hype cloud my better judgment, and not allowing myself to support these terrible practices. I'll also say that I haven't bought any of the skins, the Crypt Unlock, or the Easy Fatality microtransactions. Also, if all Combat Pack 2 has is those 4 new characters and it's still $30, unless it has something more substantial like the rumored Story Mode editions, I'll likely not be buying it. And just because I bought the first Combat Pack out of a misguided sense of hype, that still doesn't make it right for these companies to do such things. So, if anybody wants to call out my hypocrisy for taking True Underdog to task on his corporate defending video in the comments section of this video, even though I'm already calling myself out on it, you have every reason to do so. I'm not going to defend my own actions. Simply put, I was wrong, and I hope to atone for my wrongdoing by pointing out all the fallacies of True Underdog's defense of these terrible corporate practices. So there you go. This is at least the 4th time I've exposed myself in my own videos. That's what truly makes me the Great Exposer, as opposed to the majority of these other individuals on YouTube. When you point out all their factual mistakes, they'll get defensive and try to damage control it. If I'm wrong, on the other hand, and there is no defense for my wrongdoing, I'll gladly admit it and expose myself. One more thing. I'm only going to be focusing on the corporate defending aspects of this video and not even bother with Underdog's critique of GCN's critique of the game's storyline itself. Now then, with all that out of the way, let's begin.
WB Games.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give you that one. WB Games, much like EA and every other big studio, are a bunch of money-grabbing assholes, but that's kind of the nature of the beast. If you want good games, then the producers kind of always have to be money-grabbing assholes.
No, actually, they don't. Lab Zero Games' Skullgirls is a great example, and an example I'm going to keep coming back to throughout this video in keeping with the fighting game motif of Underdog's content. Skullgirls is a great game created by a company that isn't trying to nickel and dime fans for every little red cent they can, and considering they are a small company that has gone through a lot of shit just to make and distribute the game, they would have had every reason to be money grubbing and charge for any little stupid microtransaction they could come up with. But they didn't, because they actually have class, care about the respect of their fans, and know that if you treat the fans well, then you'll keep them as fans and thus continue to have a steady income.
Easy fatalities.
Wait, so I'm confused here. Are you mad about the easy fatalities, or are you mad you have to pay for them? Because you really don't have to pay for them. It's completely optional. I unlock them all the time just playing the game.
It's both the concept of easy fatalities and the fact that you have to pay for them. More on that in just a second.
This game's PC launch.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give you that one. But to be fair, Warner Brothers is the king of terrible PC launches. Seriously, they're really good at it. You got the Batman games, you got the Mortal Kombat, the list goes on. They're terrible at it.
What do you mean, to be fair? You just admitted that they fucked up the PC launch, but then used the phrase, to be fair, to further admit that they fucked up the PC launch. You do know the phrase, to be fair, is supposed to be used in the context of balancing an argument, usually in a light form of opposition to said argument, right? That's like making the statement, I had to take a shit, followed by, but to be fair, I did eat something a few hours ago. That's kind of a given, and it's redundant.
Having to pay $5 for a set of easy fatalities, even though you can literally pause the game to do the fatality and finish off your opponent.
Okay, so you are mad about the whole having to purchase them thing. Well, you don't really have to purchase them, it's just an option. And I agree that microtransactions suck, and I'll cover it more a bit later on in the video, but at the same time, you don't always get to pause the game to do a fatality, especially not online. I mean, you could rush through it and try, but it's likely not going to happen. So easy fatalities are kind of a nice option for really, really casual players. They're also a lot of fun if you play Test Your Luck, because sometimes the credentials are to do a fatality on your opponent first, and easy fatality makes it so good. Even two best friends have actually used the easy fatalities before to win Test Your Luck matches. I'm just saying.
This is one of the few good arguments you make throughout the entire video. I can't really counter the online or test your luck elements because those are factual. However, about those casual players, not only do they have the pause button in offline mode, they also have a damn fatality practice mode on top of that. If they still cannot do fatalities even with all those options at their disposal, not only do I find it hard to believe that they would even be able to do easy fatalities, I also think that they probably shouldn't be playing fighting games. I know that sounds like an elitist statement, but it's the truth. My girlfriend cannot do basic fighting game special moves to save her life, and she knows it. So you know how she handles that? She doesn't play fighting games. A wise person knows their limitations, and as nice as it would be to have everybody play fighting games, the sad reality is that not everybody is going to be able to play them. Also, you say that microtransactions suck and that you'll be expanding on that later, yet the funny thing is that when you do expand on it, you end up defending it. Observe.
And since this set is $5, we're going to add 5 sins.
Well, to be fair, it's not $5 for every easy fatality. That would be absurd. It's $5 for 30, which is still reaching a bit, but at the same time, microtransactions don't really harm anybody, especially when they can be unlocked in the game, and seeing as how you don't need to really use the easy fatalities, I don't see why it's a sin at all. It's honestly just a really easy way to make money exploiting idiots.
He said the word set, underdog. Never once did he imply that it was $5 per easy fatality. Please pay attention. Also, microtransactions don't harm anybody? Are you fucking serious? They set a dangerous fucking precedent and tells companies that, yes, it's okay to bleed us for as much money as humanly possible for any element of a game. They're testing the waters to see how far they can go with it, and it could have the potential to get out of control. If this goes over, then who's to say they won't start charging for easy fatalities and easy special moves? Then if that goes over, they may very well just flat out charge for the ability to do special moves and or fatalities a certain number of times. You just said in the previous clip that you think that they suck, but yet you then claim that they don't harm anybody. Those two statements don't go together. The other two statements that don't go together is that you said that you don't see how this is a sin at all, but then immediately say it's just an easy way to make money by exploiting idiots. You need to stop contradicting yourself.
See these Cold War and Brazil packs? Yeah, they're not included in the Season Pass. You gotta purchase them separately. So, to all of you who did get the Season Pass, do you feel like a sucker now? Because you should. And since both skin packs are $4 each, we're gonna add 8 total sins.
No, I don't really feel like a sucker, mainly because I am getting all the characters and a lot of DLC skins. I'm not getting these two in particular, but God forbid you're forced to pay for something that took a lot of time to make. As someone who's worked on texturing and modeling and rigging and animating, stuff like this is not cheap. It takes a lot of manpower and a lot of time. It's worth money. You should have to pay for it. And it's honestly not very expensive when you consider that it's $4 for 3 different skins. I know of a lot of games that would charge you $4 for just one skin. This is actually quite generous. Gamers today are pretty spoiled.
It's worth money to who? The developer? Sure, because as you just said, it takes quite a bit of money to pay the animators and designers. Is it worth money to us, the gamers? Not really. The only fighting game I can think of off the top of my head where skins/costumes remotely mattered is Injustice, because some of them had exclusive animations and or different voices. But even that is a stretch. This, just like the Easy Fatalities microtransactions, is a way for them to exploit more money, even though we already paid $60 damn for the game. Gamers having a problem with being charged for cosmetic skins that don't contribute much of anything to the game and should really already be in the game to begin with isn't being spoiled or entitled. Allow me to tell you what being spoiled and entitled really is. I work in customer service for a big cellular service provider. I'm not going to say which provider it is, not only for my own job security, but because it really doesn't matter what service provider it is, as this type of shit is across the board with all the service carriers. I encounter spoiled and entitled customers on a daily fucking basis. People that are like, yeah, I went overseas to another country and didn't know I was going to get charged all these global usage fees, so you need to remove these charges or else I'm going to another carrier because me paying you guys for a service that you provide entitles me to be an ignorant fuck-up. Or how about, I've been with you guys for 15 years and paying for using your service, so you're going to give me a free $600 plus phone, free case and car charger, 10 free gigabytes of data, and 6 months of free cellular service, or else I'm switching carriers. That is true entitlement and being spoiled. Gamers not wanting to get nickel and dimed with DLC that was already in the game but was cut out, DLC that should have just been in the game to begin with, and overpriced DLC, all after paying $60 for the game in the first place? There's no entitlement there. Interestingly enough, Black Bond just made a video about this very subject. Since it's only a couple minutes long, I'll just go ahead and play it in its entirety because it sums up what I'm trying to say perfectly.
One thing that I get very tired of hearing is that gamers are too entitled, that gamers complain about things too much, that gamers aren't really positive. Why is gaming the only industry where that kind of sentiment is reflected negatively on the consumer? In any other industry, when the consumers aren't happy with a product or service, when they decide to voice their displeasure with a product or service, what happens, people? What happens? It's the producer that is reflected negatively upon for not satisfying their consumers. Gaming is the only industry outside of pro wrestling that I can think of when the consumer isn't happy. It's not the producer's fault, it's the consumer's. It's not the developer's fault for making buggy, rush games thin on content. It's not the hardware manufacturer's fault for making weak hardware and poor online services. It's not the developer's fault for creating huge budgets, season passes, day one DLC, etc. It's all our fault, because we are the so-called ungrateful and entitled. Now, anywhere else this would sound completely stupid. If I went out to eat and the restaurant served me undercooked food, they would tell me that I'm being ungrateful. If I bought a car and it wasn't fully functional out the gate, they wouldn't tell me that I'm being entitled. If I went to see a movie and then the film stopped working halfway through it, you think they would tell me I'm being ungrateful? But apparently, that's what the video game industry wants us to do. How dare we as gamers complain and want better? How dare we want to be satisfied with our purchase? We have people across the industry saying that most gamers are whiners. Yeah, and what's your point? If gamers are whining, it's your job to do something about it. It's your job to figure it out and figure why we aren't satisfied. And then it's your job to rectify that issue. Calling gamers entitled and ungrateful doesn't fix the issue. It just shows me that you're trying to ignore fixing the actual problem. And this is where these new generation gamers come into play. You don't hold these companies accountable. You keep handing them your money. Thus you become the majority, and people like me have become the vocal minority. And this is why I'll never be one of these corporate slaves that panders to fanboys or any of these other companies out there. I'm not going to do it. Sure, I'll give praise when praise is due, like the developers like CD Projekt Red or Paradox Interactive or Tripwire, etc. But if you're not doing what is in the best interest of the gamer, I'm going to call you out on it, as well as anybody else supporting practices that do so.
See this Cold War Scorpion skin? It was a pre-order bonus exclusively at GameStop. And look at it now. It's free! Further proving that pre-order bonuses are completely full of shit.
Okay, so here's the thing I never understood. A pre-order bonus is also free. You're just spending $5 in advance. It's not $5 on top of the game's price. You're still paying $60, so the Cold War Scorpion skin was free for everybody. I do not understand this sin whatsoever.
This is another good argument you made in this video. Can't really counter this. Although, to be fair, if this skin was the only pre-order bonus and implied to be a bonus that is exclusive for those that pre-order, the fact that it became free for everybody else to download later would make pre-orders rather pointless.
Blue Steel Sub-Zero is basically a recolored version of the Gold Scorpion skin. And the worst part is, you actually gotta pay for this one. And since it's $2, we're gonna add 2 sins.
Alright, I'll admit, this one originally upset me too, until I learned that all of the funds that paid for this costume went towards a fighting game tournament for Mortal Kombat X. That got me really excited and really hyped. I think more fighting games should offer DLC content and then make the money go towards a tournament. That's a really solid idea. Thumbs up to NetherRealm. I actually love that idea. And again, $2 for a skin, ain't asking that much.
Some reason they just don't participate at EVO and have the event organizers put up the prize money? Why does this game need a separate tournament? Is this tournament open to the public, or only established world-class players that do this for a living anyway? That's a pretty weak excuse. And $2 for a skin that is only really cosmetic and contributes nothing significant towards the game and how it's played is actually asking quite a bit. That could be $2 more that could go into my gas tank, or $2 I could use for a caffeinated beverage that will help me get through a work day. I can think of much better ways to use that $2 other than making my fighting game character look different and nothing else.
Do you have money to waste? Do you not have enough time? Do you want to unlock all the goodies the easy way because you suck at Mortal Kombat? Well, pay $20 to unlock all the crypt items! And since this option is even in the damn game and it costs $20, we're gonna add 20 sins!
Alright, so I can understand if unlocking these items actually gave you some sort of advantage, that it would be unfair, but it doesn't. The game doesn't change at all by unlocking the crypt items. You just get more cosmetically appealing things like costumes and fatalities, but the gameplay doesn't change at all as far as competitiveness goes. And to be completely honest, I don't like microtransactions at all, guys, but you gotta consider the alternative. These are money-grabbing companies. They are always greedy. If they can't get money this way, they'll find some worse way to make money, like monthly subscriptions, and I would never want that for a fighting game, and it definitely could happen if enough people complain about these microtransactions. The fact of the matter is, microtransactions are not great, but they're much better than something worse like paying for monthly subscriptions. And once again, it's completely optional. You don't have to buy any of this stuff. It's not like when you play a mobile game and you have to buy the microtransactions to play the game properly. These are entirely optional, and they really don't take away from the experience at all. It's just that people that have a lot of money to burn can just unlock everything right away. That's not really a big deal. It's not even really a sin.
So you just admitted that pretty much everything in the crypt that can be unlocked is strictly cosmetic and doesn't change the game in any significant way, therefore proving my point that it's not worth any amount of money, let alone how much they're asking for. Also, that whole spiel about how we need to just deal with this nickel and diming method or else these companies will just do something worse to get their money is some of the most weak-willed corporate pandering I've ever heard. If these game companies were to be foolish enough to charge monthly subscriptions for games that are not ever changing and robust like MMOs, and games we already paid $60 for to begin with, it would be the end of gaming as we know it. Because aside from a few corporate slaves that have more money than sense, gamers aren't going to be having that shit. There's already talk about a second video game crash happening at this very moment with all these microtransactions going on. And if gaming companies tried to go the monthly subscription route instead, this second crash will officially happen due to gamers having had enough and stopped their support of these companies, and said companies will go bankrupt. I fucking promise you that. These companies know that just as much as I do, so therefore they have more sense than that. Hell, the DLC practices that have been going on for a couple of years now actually almost killed Capcom, because gamers, you know, the ones that provide them with the means to stay in business, would not tolerate their forcefulness with their bullshit DLC business practices. And they have now started to finally pull their head out of their ass and started to behave. Point is, we have the power, not these money-grubbing gaming companies. If they want to stay in business, they need to act right and not nickel and dime us to death. Period.
And you want to know what's even worse? They deliberately gimped coin earnings regardless of what difficulty you play on. So just for that, add 20 more sins.
I do agree, it's a bit lame how they cut the coins down. But at the same time, it makes the game last longer. How boring would it be if you could buy all the stuff in the crypt in like the first month? That would be absurd. That being said, there are some hardcore gamers out there who probably could do the whole thing in like a month. So now it's been extended to like 2 months. That's good, I actually like that. You shouldn't be able to unlock everything in a game right away. It extends the life of the game.
There's a pretty big difference between extending the life of a game with well-implemented game design along with actual elements that significantly contribute to the game / make it more interesting, and extending the life of a game via grinding. The only type of games you should be doing any grinding with are mobile games and RPGs, and even then it's usually tedious and monotonous. Also, do you really think they did that to extend the life of the game and not just to entice players to buy that crypt unlock to skip all that? Because if you do, you might be delusional.
And if you didn't pre-order Mortal Kombat X, you did not get Goro, even though he's already on the damn disc locked behind a paywall. And since he's $5 if you didn't pre-order, we're going to add 5 more sins.
Alrighty, once again, pre-ordering does not cost anything. It's just $5 down. So Goro's actually free if you pre-order, and if you don't pre-order, he just costs $5. $5 for a full character is a really, really, really good deal. If you don't understand that, then you gotta try working in 3D animation so you understand the pipeline. That's a modeler, plus a rigger, plus an animator, plus a texturer, and a programmer. All those things back to back. It ain't cheap. So charging $5, not a big deal. And pre-ordering doesn't cost you anything. I don't understand this argument whatsoever about pre-orders ruining games. It's just beyond me.
Okay, you can stop that whole "you need to work in 3D modeling to understand" garbage to support your argument. Because all it's doing is making you look like a corporate cock jockey in training, and an intellectually dishonest one at that. I just so happen to have an associate's degree in interactive multimedia production, in which part of the curriculum was 3D modeling. And if there's anything I learned in my college education in that field, is that there's always shortcuts and fast, efficient methods to do everything in virtually any kind of design program, whether it be Photoshop, Illustrator, Flash, Dreamweaver, After Effects, 3D Studio Max, Maya, Lightwave, Avid, Final Cut, and many, many more. My girlfriend, who just recently graduated in the exact same degree field just under a different name, can also attest to this. These companies hire professionals that know various amounts of software inside and out, and would know about simple, efficient techniques like duplicating layers or making multiple duplicates of the same base models and animations. Yet I'm expected to believe that these companies desperately need the money to compensate these people because it takes years of strenuous and tedious work just to design and render one character model along with animations? That shit might work with those that know nothing about what you're talking about, but to those that do, it just makes you look like you got your mouth embedded in these companies' muddy assholes. Also, going back to Skullgirls again, Lab Zero made their DLC characters free within the first 3 months of their release. Now, to be fair, that was after the characters were made using money given to them from the fans via crowdfunding, and they did start charging $5 after the 3-month period ended. However, Lab Zero didn't have to make the characters free for 3 months when they were released, and considering they are a small company that would need the money, they would have had every excuse to charge for their DLC right out of the gate. But they didn't, which is part of the reason why fans donated to them to begin with. The fans saw how reliable and well-meaning of a company they were when the game was released and wanted to support them. What they didn't do was develop a character during the actual development cycle, let people that pre-ordered their game have said character for free just for pre-ordering, but then lock the character behind a paywall and charge an extra $5 for those that didn't pre-order, thereby making them pay $5 more than what the retail price of the game is. Charging for a character made after the game development cycle ends is one thing, but charging for a character made during the actual development cycle by removing them out of the game and locking them behind a paywall just to nickel and dime consumers out of some extra cash is a whole other level of douchebaggery. As far as pre-ordering ruining gaming, I pre-ordered this game on the PC. Take a wild guess at how that turned out for me when it was released on Steam. As for the consoles, pre-ordering, especially from a vendor like GameStop, also doesn't end well a lot of the time. Allow me to play a clip from one of my favorite YouTubers known as Silent Rob, who actually used to work at GameStop, that will explain exactly what I'm talking about.
I've had some questions on my past videos. A couple people have asked me if GameStop really does sell the reserves after you reserve them, and let me tell you, yes, they do. I swear to God. If you look on the bottom of the receipt when you reserve a game, it says it will hold the game for 48 hours. But this is entirely subjective to what the district manager is feeling like that day. If he decides that we're not selling to anybody who didn't pre-order it, then that will be done. So if we have 1,000 copies of the game in the back room and somebody comes in off the street wanting to buy the game and you didn't pre-order it, sorry, you're not buying the game. It doesn't matter if we have plenty of copies. You're not getting the game because the district manager said so. Okay, this isn't up to us, but we'd have plenty of customers going across the street pissed as fuck, getting it at Walmart, coming in and tell us to go fuck ourselves because he just got the game for the same price across the street. GameStop thinks this helps business and pushes reserves, but it ruins business. Trust me, okay? It just all depends on the game. And other times it's the complete opposite. Sometimes we don't get a whole lot of copies, but we have a lot of reserves. So what do you think happens in that case? Do you think that people that come in the door that want the game, they don't get the game and we just hold them for those reserves? Because, I mean, you put the $5 down, you should get the game, right? Wrong. This is GameStop, remember? Who are you kidding? If you come in and there's not a whole lot of the games available and we didn't get a whole lot in the shipment, typically the district manager would call and tell us to sell those games to all the walk-ins and fuck the people who reserved it because they didn't get there on time. So if you reserved it and you come in within the 24-hour period, we probably won't have your game. It just depends. It's a flip of the coin with GameStop. You get whatever they feel like giving you, pretty much.
That combined with the fact that incentives that are considered exclusive to those that pre-order becoming available for those that don't down the line makes pre-ordering more of a headache rather than a benefit.
Classic Katana, Classic Melina, Ninja Mime Johnny, Injustice Scorpion, and Farmer Jacks are only available to unlock through the stupid mobile game.
I don't understand what's wrong with giving the player incentive to play the mobile game. I also don't see anything wrong with rewarding the player for playing the mobile game. What's wrong with that? And the game's actually pretty damn good for a mobile game. Honestly, you're just nitpicking. I don't get it. There is nothing wrong with being rewarded for playing a different version of the game. Hell, PS1 games do that all the time. You play the first game, then the sequel comes out, you get rewarded for playing the first game. Here, you get rewarded for playing a sister game. That's no big deal at all.
You're obviously not looking at the big picture. What if I don't own a smartphone? Granted, I do, but there's many gamers that don't and have no interest in them. You're just going to say, fuck them? And even if I do own a smartphone, is it going to be powerful enough to run the game at a stable, playable level? What if I don't own or want to own a tablet? What if they charge for the mobile game and I'm only interested in downloading free games? That's just another way for them to nickel and dime us. So in a way, they're just charging you for the skins in a different way. Considering I saw at least 2 of these skins actually in the damn game when I played it, there should be no reason why they're just not automatically in the damn game rather than predicating their unlock and ability to use them on a gimmick like making people play the mobile game as well.
Combat pack is $30. $30 for 4 characters and some skins. That's half the price of the game if you bought it day one. And since the combat pack is $30, you know what that means. 30 more sins.
Alrighty, now these sins are especially unfair. This all came out post-game, meaning they are hiring modelers, animators, scripters, texturers, and riggers all after the games come out. They can't do that for free. They deserve to get paid. And $30 for that many characters is not a big deal. Most games, especially Japanese fighting games, will have you buy an entirely new game just for 2 new characters. Yeah, they seriously do that. I ain't making that shit up. They do that. And here you're getting to pay $30 for 4 new characters. That's actually a really good deal, and you're not getting it for free. So it's not a sin, it's actually a nice luxury. Plus, these characters are all really, really good, and they're continually balanced out after they've been released. It's a really good deal. NetherRealm's pretty awesome about this stuff. No sins for this. It's just ridiculous. You can't give sins for this.
Wow. So many things wrong with this, I don't know where to begin. First off, with how many copies the game sold, you don't think they made any sort of profit to pay these new design workers? What about the money they have gotten from all the microtransactions from the idiots you alluded to earlier in the video, which still wouldn't be an excuse to have them, but it at least would have made it less painful if we knew it was going to the creation of DLC characters? Or how's about the money for those skins that went to a tournament when that's what EVO is for? Which again, still wouldn't have been an excuse to do it, but it would have at least gone to something worthwhile. Secondly, we know full well that some companies put out a whole new retail game as an incremental update to their previous game that they could have just updated with a patch and charged full retail price for it when people already paid that for the previous game. That's another reason why Capcom almost went belly up. That's not a valid reason to justify this. That's like trying to defend a murderer who killed people with a poison to where they died peacefully in their sleep by calling attention to a murderer that killed their victims via slow, agonizing torture. Third, you really think half the price of the game when it was released for 4 additional characters is a good deal? Have you corporate pandered yourself retarded, or are you just really bad at math? $60 at launch gave you 25 characters. And yes, I'm including Goro because he was on the fucking disc already. I don't care if they had to hire new people because the game development cycle ended. Because as I said, they had plenty of means to pay them. Hell, let's go back to Skullgirls yet again. After the 3-month period of having their DLC characters be free ended, they only charged $5 a piece for them. Which, considering the game was only about $15 to $20 at launch, that price was reasonable to charge. That $5 figure just so happens to be how much they charged those that didn't pre-order the game for Goro. Based on that math, that Season Pass character pack should only be $20. What's the extra $10 for? Skins? Cosmetic shit that doesn't contribute anything of any substance towards the game? Not worth it whatsoever. Simply put, there is no defending this. When other smaller companies that would need the money and would have more of an incentive to implement these terrible money-grabbing business practices aren't doing it, none of your "you need to be a character model designer to understand" bullshit is going to fly, and you cannot try to say there is a great deal here. Especially when, for that price, I could buy 1, possibly 2 full-length games. Yet again, citing Skullgirls when it was released for around $15 to $20. Yet for $30, I get 4 new characters for a game I already paid $60 for that came with 25 characters? There is no math in the world you can use to spin this into it being a great bargain. Period.
And if you ever wondered why WB Games gets counted as a sin, it's because they are directly responsible for the bullshit business practices that I just listed. So now you know.
It is true that they are money-grabbing companies. I agree. But money-grabbing companies give you better games. And seeing as how here it's a bunch of microtransactions that you don't have to do, as well as DLC content that you don't have to buy, that's pretty damn fair.
Please refer to the previous video where I countered this statement. Although I will add, yet again, Skullgirls. Great fighting game where the company behind it weren't being money-grubbing assholes. I feel nothing more needs to be said about that.
Well, here you go, people. Evident proof. Rain is a fully functional character, yet he is not a playable character in the game. I'm guessing he will be saved for Combat Pack number 2 later down the road. Blame it on the WB!
Alrighty, he brings this point up multiple times in this video, and they are all completely wrong. None of the characters in story mode are fully functional. Just look at Tanya. Her animations are half Katana's animations, and the other non-playable characters in story mode have no X-ray, no intro dialogues, no victory animation, no brutalities, no fatalities, and the list goes on and on and on. They also have no variations and stuff like that. They are not completely functional, and shame on you for saying it. That being said, I really do hope that Rain is in Combat Pack 2, and I got my fingers crossed.
What he meant by fully functional is that the character model is already done, a good chunk of the character model's animations are done, and even special moves are present. While I do agree that the term fully functional may have been the wrong terminology to use, it still doesn't change the fact that the good majority of the character is complete and in the game in a non-playable format. You're just trying to pile all this mostly irrelevant shit of, oh, but their variations aren't done, nor are their fatalities, brutalities, victory animations, etc., to try to make an argument that Rain and Baraka should be in another combat pack and that we should pay for them, despite the fact that they're already in the damn game we purchased. Like I said before, there is fast and efficient means to get shit done in pretty much every single design program on the face of the earth. And considering the main models and character animations are already done, adding everything else to characters that are already 75 to 85% complete won't take that much time at all. And shame on you for implying that it will to try to convince people that they should purchase a character that for the most part is already in the fucking game.
Greed.
Greed is definitely a sin, so kudos to you, sir.
And yet you spent the first 8 to 9 minutes of your video pretty much defending the greed of money-grubbing companies. Congrats on yet another contradiction. Like I said in my previous video, I'm a fan of True Underdog Gaming. But as I've shown many times before, me being a fan of somebody doesn't mean I'm not going to call out their bullshit. And Underdog, the first 8 to 9 minutes of your video response to GCN was full of corporate slaving, pandering, and defending bullshit that was easily countered. If that shit was easily countered, I can't imagine how easily any of the other aspects of your video would be to counter. But as I said, those aspects aren't important. It was the corporate cocksucking that needed to be addressed. Underdog, you've said in a previous video that you've got connections in the animation industry and are going to school for 3D animation in the hopes of being a model designer for video games. If this is the type of corporate pandering mentality you're going to have if you break into the industry, it's probably best for all of us if you don't break in at all, because we've got enough corporate cop jockeys in the industry as it is, so we sure as fuck don't need any more. But regardless, I do wish you well in all your future endeavors. Just please, don't try to defend these bullshit business practices again, okay? Because if you do, you're going to have me and several other people knocking you right back into the dirt in which you've lowered yourself to by pandering and defending these bullshit business practices. And with that said, I'm out of here. The Great Exposer has spoken.